Perfect.
No.
There we go. You all right, Stephen? You okay?
Yep, we're ready to go. Stephen, do you want to pull that picture up?
Absolutely.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Great to see everybody. Thanks for joining us. Absolutely delighted and overjoyed to have Mr. Jim Fleeton with us this morning. I just want to do a quick introduction. We'll roll into it. One of our challenges always at this time of season, look at that Jim Fleeton on the right-hand side there. Look at that handsome fella. And one of our challenges always at this time of season is it's end of college season for a lot of our members here, and just, you know, it's the last week and a half, 2 weeks of the season. So a lot of people have sent their apologies, but they're really excited and looking forward to hearing the recording. So we're going to record this, share with everybody. But absolutely delighted and honoured to have Mr. Fleeton with us this morning. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. My name's down there is Irene Fleeton, so I hope somebody actually sees and my name is actually Jim Fleeton today.
I don't think there's any doubt in who Jim Fleeton is. And just to kick us off, there's two pictures that I found here this morning, and I just want to say, firstly, a big thanks to you, Jim, because this group of 330 or so Scottish coaches that we've got, you know, this little kind of safe network, as we would call it over here. You were in at the start of this, Jim, and you were a big support and advocate of this, and you know, the wheels that have turned then or since then of you know, you were a big part. And these are the early years. That was back in 2016 and 2017, I believe, when you were over on your annual visits to the convention. But I just want to say a quick thanks. And you'll probably remember the first couple of years, Jim, we had people like Ocean Roberts and Tom Sermani, and you know, it was just a great group that we got involved. Can you speak to that a little bit in the early days, Jim, when you came over on your visits?
Yeah, the course is absolutely fantastic. You know, it really is. When you go to see the number of coaches who are there of a high quality, is fantastic. So the likes of myself and Donald Park is my, he's my man beside me at most times. And the biggest thing about it is we actually get shipped off at 7:30 in the morning for a program. We get shipped off for a program at 7:30 in the morning. Next morning, we then get another program, but it was one of the programs that you get in a room and you sit there and chat away to everybody. So the bandits were actually just doing me in, and they were doing me in, no doubt about it. And there was a man below a railway passageway at the top one day, and I seen the man a wee bit struggling with his box, and that box just happened to be a guy called Ian Donnelly, who's possibly a friend of yours.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They were actually just standing there, and I gave him a good hand with the box. I took that. I would just sort it out for you because you weren't big enough to carry it. It was a television Ian Donnelly buys every 3 days. He takes it back when the course is finished. That's how he gets his money back. I couldn't believe how anyone would do that. So I just think it's great. You know, I really enjoyed the course without question. I really have. And I was doing it for about the millennium. We go back to the millennium of the 20 year when every Tom, Dick, and Fred was about frightened to see this. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? You know. Will we blow up, or will we get this or that, or it was on and on and on. And I went, and that was at Fort Lauderdale, and I went and did that one for the guys. So I had a great time.
Some great memories, Jim. And I'm just going to pass you on to Kingy in a second, because we've got quite the career to run through, and certainly we've got some Ayrshire members of our group especially joined us today to fire some questions at you, Jim. So you might be ready for some curveballs. Some Ayr United ladies legend is here today, and she's got a few questions ready and loaded. Just finished her A license as well, so excited about that. But as I say, I just wanted to say a big thanks for your early days involvement to where we are now, Jim. You know, especially you and Parky and Donald Gillis getting it all moving. You know, and just your rubber stamping endorsement and support was brilliant, you know, those first couple of years. And it was always fun. It was always light, and it was always a great opportunity to get everybody together. And I think that was certainly the early days of what it is now. So I just want to say a huge thanks. And I'm just going to pass you on to Kingy. Kingy's going to go straight to the nutmeg for Rodney Marsh at Tampa Bay Rowdies. I think he's going to kick it off there, Jim.
That's okay. I'll let him kick it off.
So I'll let Kingy run with it for there, mate. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah. I think I should start right at the start of the career before that, Jim. I think looking back now, I look at the start of your career, and going to Norwich City from Scotland would be huge news now. But back then, you went to Norwich City, you'd been bred as a player, I think, at Kilbirnie Ladeside. Talk us through that a little bit. I mean, that would be a huge move. You'd be headline news now, but at that point, I'm not imagining it was the same kind of impact when you went to Norwich City from Scotland.
No, the thing is, I was a kind of guy who's a home guy. And my good lady, she was 19 and I was 20 at that time. And I was, Celtic asked me to go. It was Sean Fallon came and asked me to go. Morton asked me to go. So these people were asking me. And of course, I'm wondering, in Celtic in your chest, it's a big thing that. Mm-hmm. So I thought to myself, well, if I go down to Celtic and I don't do as well as I hope I did, then I'm certain that another team would look at me after Celtic, whoever that may be. And of course, this happened, and it was I had a fallout with the manager. He called me an amateur. He says, "You're just an amateur." The guy, John Bond, "You're just an amateur." And of course, I bet you turned around again. I turned it again. I says, "Oh, I'm an amateur, am I? Is that what you think of me?" And so we're arguing back and forth. So finished up at the end. I went back home, and he had paid the £15,000 for me, and which is quite good for me. And we get going at Ayr United, and it was much better for me. Up at Kilbirnie was a strange one as well, because there was a guy at Kilbirnie called Sconey,
Bobby Davidson.
Yeah. Sconey Bobby Davidson. It was Sconey. And of course, he kind of liked me quite a bit, and he helped me out a wee bit at the junior game, because you get a bit of doing in there sometimes. You're in there, and he went and they get some money. They get £600 for Kilbirnie, and I said, "Sconey, what's the £600 for?" And Sconey said, "Oh, aye, that's right. I was to give you £300, Jim. That's right. We're to half of ourselves and all that." I said, "Well, come on." I said, "We'll just walk down the street, and we'll get our money at some bank there, and we'll be fine." He says, okay, that's you, okay. And that was him again. He was just at it like everybody else. But John Bond, when he went, and John Bond was so different. Rest his soul. But he's so different from me, but that's for sure. He just looked for all the top guys in there and playing them all the time and all that. And I got a wee bit furious sometimes. But I was lucky. I got a coach, John Sainty at Norwich, and he kind of looked after me. And that was good. That don't do in the manager in any way whatsoever. Yep. But I did all the training with the first team as well. So I'm in there, I'm training them, and I'm looking for a game. But I got a few sitting in the benches, that kind of idea. Yep. We had Middlesbrough at Christmas. We had Wolves somewhere as well. So we got a few of them. We got another good one actually, and that was at Chelsea. The manager came to me and says, "You want a game?" I says, "Oh, I'll take a game. I'm going to Chelsea. Yeah, I'll take a game." And he says, "Right, okay, do that." So we went away, and they all get dressed when it come up after the rundown with the bus. We all get their clothes off, and it was a strip for a goalkeeper. And I'm going, "It can't be me." He says, "It's not me, surely." He says, you put that jersey on, because we'll need you. We've got a thing." I said, "What do you mean, boss?" He said, "Don't you worry about that. I'm seeing you okay. There'll be a few quid in your bank account. Don't you worry about that." And I looked at it, and it was 20 quid. The 20 quid was a fortune for me, because me and my wife had just got married and all that nonsense about it. And 20 quid to get this money to me. So that was how it did that. So but I loved Norwich. I spoke to a guy last night about another colleague, a guy called Dougie Evans, and I was chatting away to him, and that just shows you, that we're all together. It was me and Ian Davis as well was there as well. Just came all together, and it was smashing.
Yeah.
But when I tell folk that I was playing at Chelsea, they just didn't believe me. I didn't. It was like that Texaco Cup. You remember the cup?
Exactly. Yeah, in the 70s.
It was that. That's what it was, and I was just in there to make sure. It was Big Roger. Big Roger went to go in case he got injured, and I have to go there. I'll see the imagine a ball. Imagine
a substitute goalie.
Aye, boy, imagine a ball.
You any good in the nets? No.
I was absolutely mince. Absolutely, I'm a shocker. I'm pleased to excuse my language for those folk. I'm very much the same as Ian. I'm as bad as Ian for the language. He speaks a wee bit better than me. So, folks, please excuse me.
Not many on this. I mean, there's a lot of younger ones on this, Jim, that might not realise that you were a bit of a kind of trailblazer for Scottish players and coaches in America. I mean, you had a season out at Tampa Bay Rowdies, and obviously in a lot of these calls at times we have Neil Collins, who's head coach, another Kelly Boy, who's head coach at Tampa Bay Rowdies right now.
I see him when I go
out there for a season. What's your memories of being out there at Tampa Bay Rowdies? I mean, you played an entire season, I think, in the old North American.
I did. I managed that, but again, this was John Bond, who's making me feel okay and all that nonsense. And they got a centre half at West Ham, and the guy was asked if he wanted to go to Scotland to take part in the football there, and I says, I'll go, no bother, no problem whatsoever, I'll go there. And following me was Mick Maguire and Graham Padden. They were coming behind me, so we're going there. We were actually going for a game, but people would probably think it was nothing else other than that. But I got a game and I went there, and I played with, I don't know where Gordon Jago was going to take me all the time, but we played away and we did reasonably well, I've got to say. If you look at the scores, they were reasonable, the scores. But no, they came to Tampa Bay and we played away there quite a thing. And we finally got to the final. Now, what a final it is. You come in there and Beckenbauer, Big Costa, they're all walking in, they're just all walking in one after the Bozicek, and they're fantastic, and you're waiting for them. So every time I went to one of these stadiums, I used to go and pick up a present. Go for a wee shop. I wasn't going to pick it out of somebody's pocket.
Yeah.
So I go in, I'm trying to find Pelly's autograph. And of course, I'm chasing them. And here again, into the, what do you call the kind of carriageway under the stand. We go in there and I catch him. And just as I was about to say, excuse me, Mr. Pelly, this boy grabs me. He grabs me. And he just takes me out and he puts me outside. And that was me. I didn't get a chance of Pelly. So then we were going to one of the New York players, the striker it was. Oh, for goodness sake.
Italian.
He's going, So he's in there. And you what?
Canaglia, the Italian boy.
That's who it is. Canaglia. So he was in there. And that's what he put me out the street and put me out the road. And then the next night we were going to celebrate Caglia's American, he's now an American. And of course I walk in there and you get your tie on and your black suit on and all that, and I'm sitting here and I'm sitting in the seat quite a thing. And I turn round and there's Pelly. He's only one seat away from me. One seat, he's there. I'm going, I've seen you a few times. So then I get Pelly again. He came over to the big World Cup that Andy and Craig were in the final of. Remember the Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Were 42. So Andy was there, but he brought in Pelly again, and of course I'm now playing football with Pelly up at Dunblane. I'm playing football with Pelly. Passing the ball. Of course, every time I pass it, it's gone because it's murdered. Pelly goes and gets it again, and it comes in a wee short of shoot. So the time I had in America was fantastic. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I said to the boys I would definitely include a story you told me once in the manager's office at Kilmarnock, Rodney Marsh was a teammate of yours in Tampa Bay, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's one recollection you've got of Rodney Marsh. There has to be.
I've got a couple. Rodney, when we get there, it's like everything. You know, the kind of high for fluting guys, the guys who've got all the potential, the good players, that, and you're hanging onto their pocket, their shorts. And Mickey Maguire came the next day. Graham Padden went with Rodney because they were kind of pals. They were pals, their accents and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So they were pals, and we were standing there and they're saying, right, let's get into a 5v5 or a 2v2 so it was a 2v5 they had. And so they go in to get this pitch all made round and to get it done with the cones as usual. And then I go, and Mickey and all says, right, so saying 5v2, let's go. Not the ball, keep the ball moving. Because they're keeping the ball moving for a hell of a time. Because they're quite, you know, Adrian Olsen, the big guy, Smithhurst, they're keeping this ball going, it's knocking about. And of course, we're diving in here and we're throwing our face in here. And this is for Scotland, this is for Scotland. I've just arrived, Mike, you just arrived. I didn't. So they're knocking the ball back and forward. And of course, then it all starts now. Of course, he comes up and he gives me a big, just open my legs too wide actually. And he just put the ball through it as sweet as a bump. And he didn't even mind it, this thing. And he's going, oh, the jockey's doing his bit of the day. Oh, hey, jockey man for Scotland, they brought him for. Oh, I saw the kid. Of course, he was fantastic at that. He was fantastic. And he was a nice enough man. He was chatting away. He used to take you up. And I was injured at one game. It was a Toronto game. And they didn't want me to come out of the rooms and that kind of stuff. So I stayed in the rooms, but the rest of them all seemed to drift away. And then says to me, come on, the big Gordon Jago said it's okay for you to come. So I come in, there's big Graham Padden again, there's Davy Robb, he's in there again. And of course, anyway, and they go into the where the bar is down the hotel, and he's down there and he's thinking to himself, my goodness, there's a fair share of number of ladies here. I'm saying to myself, there's a fair share of number of ladies, and we're in Toronto, and we're in Toronto too. And then, of course, there he is. He comes in and he's got a toothbrush in his top pocket. He's got a toothbrush in his top pocket, and he's got nothing else but a toothbrush. And that was how he walks in, cool as can be, and there he was again. But good guy, Rod. It's absolutely great for me. Yeah. You know, for me to see somebody and meet him, something like that, it's fantastic. But Mickey, he was saying, Mickey says, well, nobody doing effing that again. That will not happen again. That'll no. So that was him. So there you go. That's your Rodney's.
That's your Rodney one. When you came back, I mean, obviously, like Ayr United was probably the most productive spell of your playing career. But then you went on to manage Kilmarnock. How did that going to go across? How does that? How are you regarded in Ayrshire having that's crossing the Great Divide in Ayrshire, having worked there as a journalist? That's a Rangers and Celtic job, isn't it?
Yeah, well, a bit of bankruptcy in the house. So we didn't manage these other things we were doing. But no, we got that, and I went to get a job. I went to get a job, either a coach or a window cleaner or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. So Big Jerry, what's Jerry's big name? Oh, you know, we played with the Partick Thistle for 100 years. Jerry Collins is there, and he comes in all the time. He says, Fleach, want me to get you a club? I says, I ain't bothered. I said, what do you mean getting a club? He says, well, John's needing another coach. I says, oh, fantastic. I said, I'll do that, no problem. I said, that'd be great for me. I said, right, get him in. Of course, John Lambie wasn't the quietest type of person just to chat with. And you get him in, and he come up me all the time, shouting at me all the time, get that done, get that done. And this was pre-season. It was pre-season, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was just me in a van and all the players, and I've got all the gear and all the kit. And I got up there into this hospital grounds, and there's no bother whatsoever, but they're all playing away, and of course I've got everything all fixed, stats fixed, everything's fixed. Nobody can do anything about this. But here finally is the manager comes in, says, right, we're doing some sit-ups, okay, sit-ups. If you can't get them, you're going to run up that hill with your trousers, your shorts down, your pants are on, your shorts are down, get yourself up there. So and then of course they're back and forth. But I said, Gaffer, they don't really want that stuff. It doesn't help them. But he says, no. He says, no, get them out of here, get them up here. And just slaughtered them. They slaughtered one another, and it was terrible. It was terrible. But what I think, I'll get so much off John Lambie. I get so much off him because I wasn't a John Lambie type of guy. No, but I just think. But it was a place to go if you're looking for some clothing or some fridges or anything like that. And Big Jerry's okay for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could sort you out.
Yeah.
So when you started working, you worked as an assistant with Willie McLean.
Yeah.
Coaching.
Yeah.
Obviously part of a family that are very different people.
Yeah.
Jim and Tony and Willie, but all kind of successful managers. What was he like what was he like to work with?
To me, he was great. He was great. You know, I'm not a swearer or anything like that. You know, and that kind of annoyed me one day. He brought me in and he says, "You need to start effing swearing." And I went, No, I don't. I don't need to start effing swearing. I says, I don't want to. If you're going to tell me to go and start swearing, I'm not doing it. But after a wee while, he just stayed back from me, and I just carried on what I used to do. But he was great. He was great for us. A wee crabbit bandit, you know, a wee crabbit man. His wee face, and then he's great. A chance to go to Kilmarnock today. And that would have been a better one from the size of leagues at that time, come out and in there. And that, but no, he was very good. He sent me to a course at Lads for 80 quid. And that was okay. It was great. I was to go and get myself licensed. And that was a C license, a B license, a C license. It's no one. So that's what I did. And he'd done that for me. And it was very good deal. Very good deal.
Yep. When we look back to being manager at Kilmarnock, I mean, that was probably the first time that I really dealt with you like in depth when you were at Kilmarnock, and obviously your brother Bobby was the chairman. And
I was having a sacking of the band.
You're probably the only manager I know that's been sacked by his brother.
Yeah, but, that's right.
But there was kind of emotional roller coaster. There was a relegation, there was a promotion. Obviously, Tommy Burns, you signed Tommy Burns there. I mean, how do you look back in that period in your life?
I thought it was great. I thought it was great, but I had a crabbit face for the whole time. You know, I just didn't take it all in. I just didn't take it all in. I was just, if I look at some of the things that I did do, we were to get promoted, had Queen of the South playing against us, and Clyde scored a third goal at Broomlands, and that's how it, one goal we needed, that was it. And that kind of moved us a wee bit. But we had some good players, and that was why, you know, we bring Tommy Burns would be good players. So Tommy was playing quite well. Waters at the time was scoring goals, which was quite good for us. Slidden was in there as well, kind of handful in there. McAllister was a decent player, etc. So there was some good players in there, and it was so good about it. And that's what they're doing. But no, that was fine, yeah. That was fine.
But that point, I remember, like, we obviously in weekly contact at that point. I'm working at the Ardrossan and Saltcoats Herald at that point, and you were the big club, if you know what I mean, like Kilmarnock were the big club. And I always remember one game, which I think is interesting, and you're kind of the difference between being a manager and being a coach. And I remember sitting and you'd won. I remember you'd won the game, and I can't remember who it was against, but we were talking in the office after the game, and you'd won the game 3-2 or something late on. And I remember you being down and I'm like, what's the matter with your face? You just won late on. And he said, that other guy next door, he might get the sack because we won. And I'd never heard that from a coach or a manager before. And I remember walking home and thinking, is he really cut out to be a manager if your first thought was for the other guy? And then thinking that was probably one of the most human things that I'd heard from anyone in football, because it can be a cruel game. Well, talk to that a little bit. Was that something that was in your head all the time, and were you maybe more cut out to be a coach than a manager?
Yeah, definitely. My family was up in the stand and things like that when I get promoted to the second division, which is the thing about it. But then I started, I'm looking at these folk, in that third division at the time, that wasn't going to help any guys. They're just going to get sacked the minute it's not working at the bottom end, and you've got to think about that. And I couldn't say it was enjoyable at any time for me, football. I just couldn't see it for me, that type of football. And there with Walter, McRae, and I just couldn't take it. I just thought, no, this isn't it for somebody like me. But I said, I'll go for it. It was McSherry and Frank Coulson there. So they were the older men looking after me and things like that. But I didn't buy into the supporters. Yes. I'll probably say that now, but it'll be instant that it'll probably come when the ball hits the net, and then I'll kind of calm down a wee bit and I'll start to look at the boy next to me and think that'll be tough for him next season. Blah, blah, blah. But we got another night at East Fife, and it was Tommy Burns' first game at Kilmarnock.
Freezing, I remember.
There was snow everywhere. Yeah. And so we're all trying to get there. So we're going through the pubs to get there and everything such as that. Can you give us a meal for, a game of football and stuff like that? And then somebody got a taxi, then somebody got their car. And we get into East Fife, and we get into their place. And we're getting all dressed up, getting the gear on and all that nonsense. There was only one guy missing at this minute in time. We were down to 11 players. But there was another guy there. And out we go, and it was the snow, and Tam Burns is there and blah blah blah, and I'm up in the director's box, which is off centre, but I'm in the director's box. I'm sitting up there and I'm watching the game, and then I see a wee guy called Jim McSherry. Jim McSherry's in the dugout, and he does it well for us. And he's giving him a wee blast here and a wee blast there, and he's getting the team going and blah blah blah. And then what happens is David Wilson. He's falls down because he's cold. He's too cold. He thinks too cold. And of course, I'm coming down for the steps, thinking, "What's McSherry up to? What's he up to?" Honestly, is he doing something? He's done something. And of course, I get there, and of course, he says, "Jim, don't say anything to me. I didn't do anything at all. And he comes in, he sees me, and says, "We're going to cancel the game." And of course, at that time, we were something like 3-0 down. So it was a really different. Maybe it wasn't that. And I don't know. Can't you? It was after the half time, just after half time, he said, "This can't go on." It must have been something like 1-0 or 2-0. So that was it. And they just took us off. And of course, I was and said, "McSherry, what are you up to? What are you done? What are you doing? Tell me." He says, "The referee wants to cancel the game." He says, "He wants to cancel it." "No, that can't happen. Nah, he'll not cancel the game." Sure enough, he cancelled the game. And then we went down to East Fife on the Wednesday. And it was Ian Porteous scored the only goal of the game, and we won 1-0. So at that time, I'm walking away from the dugout at the end of the game, and I go in there and I get into the dressing rooms, and I'm looking about. I'm saying, "Where is everybody?" He says, "Where are you? Hi, where are you?" No, they're away celebrating that 1-0. And who was the guy who was his manager, Ian? Would you remember? Would you remember?
Oof.
Because he was the man. Him and Jim Stewart started a fight, get up the tunnel. So the beliefs happened in the tunnel. And of course, they're all jumping. These 5 guys are going up the thing of the path. And that was on us. Oh, dear. And I that's what we've come to now. So that was me.
Yeah. There's those times where, like, I think people will always look back at Tommy, obviously succeeded you after that as manager at Kelly, but he had a magnificent impact on the club, didn't he?
Oh, Tommy Burns was just one of the nicest guys God ever put in this earth, and that would suit him. He was just a lovely, lovely guy. He's someone that he wanted to get, become a manager. There's no doubt about that. He wanted to become a manager, and of course I was there to kind of help him. He walked in one day and he says, "Right, Gaffer, what we're doing about lining up the team?" I says, "What do you mean? We're okay. We're fine here." Says, no. Give me the ball. I'll go out and I'll put some players in some areas. So he put the players in the areas, and away he went. He just started playing. He started playing and playing. He was playing very well, and he's playing away. So he managed to get the team that we let him into the right positions. So after that, I went the opposite way. I went to the defence, and I was making sure that we could, take on the team we're going to play. And I worked out fine with Tommy. Tommy was great. And he was great. Yeah. He did do something at Meadowbank. We beat Meadowbank 7-1 one night at Meadowbank. And of course, I get in the bus and sitting in the bus. And of course, I'm not a drinker again, as you know that. And I'm sitting in the bus and tapping and says, You'll need to take the guys for a pint. He says, What do you know? He says, Because we're celebrating. When else can you 7-1? When's the last time you 7-1 away from home? He says, we need to go. We definitely need to go. I said, well, I'll phone the chairman. So I phoned the chairman. The chairman says, no bother whatsoever. And that was him. Yeah. So all the tricks of the trade that players come across.
Right. He had the human touch, though, didn't he? I think in the coach education one, I know we've got a lot of questions at the end, so I'm going to save some time at the end to let all the coaches come in and ask some questions, Jim. But I think most of us on here have at some point come through your hands and Parky's hands, whether we were doing a C license, a B license, or A license, whatever it was, a early touch, whatever. And you've seen that many coaches come through the pathway and all that. What do you believe now when you've seen the game change so much in the time you've been at the SFA? What would you think are the key ingredients of the makeup of a successful modern day coach? Has it changed?
Yeah. Yeah, it has changed. I'm just trying. I put something up before I sat down next to you, and it was. This is a PowerPoint. I'm into PowerPoints big time, but I'm not as much now as I was. But with this heading, and I think we used it at some time, and it was called "Creating Tomorrow Today." Creating tomorrow today, and the idea is we need to be ready for things that's going to happen to us, and that was quite good for everyone to buy into it. We started talking about young developing players as a kind of, there is a kind of step how young they are, how old they are, so they're all about 18 at some time, between the 15 and 18 they are, and it's to develop the young players. There's a picture there, they beat Brazil at a tournament once, and we start to talk about who they are. That there's players out there who come and go, and it's something I start to look into them to try and boost them in some way. So I've got who they are in here, and they need to be willing. I've got I think 6 or 7 of them. They need to be willing, these players. If they want to make it, they need to be willing. They need to be hard-working. You need always a hard-working kid in their group, and there's a lot of people can do that. But there's a lot of people you've really got to give a right good push before they start. They need to be challenged, so I've got to get an edge that where they're going to go with this challenge. Is it forward or is it back? So you look at that one. They need to be a good team, with teammates and everything else come together, and it works so well. You need to get that, and that's important to us. They need to be respectful to all. They need to be honest, and they need to be loved. And that's the thing with the players, particularly the kind of younger ones. You love somebody. It's one of these things that you say that people say, "Oh, you loved him. Oh, you loved him." No, we liked it. We had a wee gang of apprentices at Kilmarnock my time, and it was the first time they were coming out to be full time. So we went with that. So they went, who are they? And then they started to say, "Who am I? Who am I? What am I going to do?" So again, it was something I need to look after them. That's the big. We need to look after them. It's a big thing. We need to deliver a wholesome short-term and long-term pass plan. We need to get that in. And again, it's back working with these guys. We need to consider their needs. What do they need as well as me? What do they need? So we've got to look at them out there. We then look at, we need to understand them. And that's another one for young people, young boys who go out there all boisterous and I'm going to be a great player, etc., etc. We need to set goals together. So we do that. And we need to love them back. We need to love them back, these guys. And that's to make sure that we got on well. So I've got umpteen things in that. But that question you asked me there was just a kind of right question for me. It was important that when I went there and people went there, it was important that they get pushed into the first team at some time. And sometimes they did, and sometimes they just get pushed in with somebody else who's a bit older than them. And sadly for me at that time, I was needing people who can play at the football. So that was that. It's a nice point right now.
Yeah. No, not brilliant. Maybe if you send that on to us, Jim, an email, we can.
I can do it. I'm for it. If I can get it, we'll need to get it.
Troops would love that.
Well, sorry, I do. I think it's very good.
No, that kind of knowledge.
King, can I just interrupt with a couple of questions? Well, there's a few people bombing some questions here, and I thought I'll, just put them on the spot. There's a couple want to ask Jim some questions. First up was Claire Ward. Good morning, Claire. How you doing? I know you're a wee bit travel weary, but I know you had a couple of questions you wanted to ask Claire. An Ayr United ladies legend, Jim.
Oh, she's not coming again, is she? I know again.
Good morning, Claire. How are you doing?
Good morning. Bit tired, but
Claire is freshly returned from her USA license. Get back last night, so she's just been through the ringer in the last week. So did all go well, Claire?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Went good.
Good. Yeah. Well done. Great stuff. The floor is all yours, Claire.
Jim, I've got two questions. First one, I think you kind of bypassed it when Kingy asked you, but how could you play for Ayr United and then go manage Kilmarnock?
No, don't say that. No.
Oh,
no.
She went straight for it, Jim. She went straight for it.
Correct. I was at Somerset on Saturday, let me tell you.
Oh.
Is that not good enough? Well, I was there. No, it was there. The first thing that happened to that was at Kilmarnock. Remember Kilmarnock's old stand, where they'd people standing below the directors, etc. Well, I'm sitting in there thinking this, oh God, this is it. I'm going to Kilmarnock and watching this, blah, blah, blah. Shut your face, shut F and B within 2 seconds. That was him going to me. He just, honestly, he got me. He's gun ready for me coming in. And I can't stand with that. That'll not happen. But no. My time here has been my best time in football. There's nobody can say otherwise, I'm sure of.
So, all right, we'll let you off.
Right, okay, thank you.
And then I've got one more question. Might be a bit more of a personal question, but with your football brain and then obviously Julie growing up, being the best player in Scotland, what was it and what did it take for you not to coach her?
I don't really coach any. I've got my son after Julie, and I don't really coach as much as I do. As I keep looking at, I'm looking at the park just now with my grandchildren there, and I'm looking at them, and I'm saying, Barry didn't get that, Julie didn't get that, Jim is older, she wasn't interested, and it really is. But I've just got to make sure that I do it to the right. I've got to make sure that the stuff that they're asking for, I'll do with Julie, no problem at all. And I did. And it was funny, the young lady Fairbairn, who plays with Chelsea just now, and my dad, they go together. So we go there, and I've done a bit of training there for Julie, different ways I picked off. But the biggest thing was, if you can see inside my house in any way whatsoever, that's where we just run around the park, around the house, and they play a game of touch one and all that stuff. And with this thing about, if you win 2 games, that was you the champion, is what it was. Because Barry was playing Julie and he was playing me, but I used to let Barry win. Julie wouldn't let Barry win, and Jim was left, and that's how it went for me. I had 2 wins anyway when they came, so that was it. But Julie's she's just natural. She's natural what she does. She plays them, and there's another story going about when we get the Lithuania, and it was 17-0 was the game, and that was it. So during that time before the game started, I said to Julie, you're playing in the middle of the park. And she says, why am I playing in the middle of the park, Dad? I says, well, I want you to stay in the middle of the park. I want you to hit as many balls as you can to make sure it gets in the box. The balls to get into the box, as many balls you just get it into the box. So it was 6-0 at half time, and then the final game when it came and finished off at 17, we did, you know, a great time, you know, and it was good. It worked out for us. Julie get pushed up front then, and then it was just a case of let's go for it, and it was quite good. So where are you based?
I'm in Indiana.
Am you?
Yeah.
You like it there?
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, so what's the course that they were talking about there?
I'm doing my A license.
Is it the USSF?
Yeah.
Is it? And how is it?
Hard.
Is it?
Hard. Yeah. Lasts a year, but no, it was absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Oh, good. Good.
So the week you just did, Claire, where was that and what did that entail?
So we started in August on Zoom.
Yeah.
And this was the first in-person meeting. It was in Kansas.
Yeah.
And then we're going to Texas in February, and then back to Kansas in May.
Yeah.
And then we'll be done.
Shipped about.
Fair whack. Well, thank you, Claire. Next question we have is the Ibrox legend himself, Mr. Colin Miller. Colin.
Jim, it's great to see you. You've never changed a bit. Never changed.
How are you doing?
Sorry I was late this morning. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Oh, you're no changed a bit, partner.
Jim, I just want to highlight, if you can check that portrait over his right shoulder, you might recognise where his colours are, Jim. I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thanks very much, partner. Very kind of you doing it.
Jim, it's great to see. I had some fantastic times down at Largs doing the B licence and then of course the A licence. And some of the people that I had the privilege to work with during that time, and it's a bit of a comment just to thank you for what you did for me while I was down there. I thought being as a young player, well, just coming to the tail end of my career at the time, to get exposed to that level of coaching. Some of the differences, I think maybe Kingy may have mentioned it earlier, Jim, but what are some of the biggest differences? Are you happy in the direction that coach education is going? Do you think, as the young lady just said there, it's hard, it's difficult, which it should be at that license, of course, but do you see it going in the right direction?
Yeah, I do. It's making a lot of money. That's the direction that I think it's at just now. When we started way back in the 90s, about Andy Roxburgh's time, Andy always had enough. Give me 1 second, Colin. Don't go away, Colin. Please don't. Keep going. It's okay. My wife's looking for a Kingley, so that's it. Sorry, everyone there. Andy and Craig always had that everyone would get money there. So that was a start for us. We then went to the PFA and we gave them money and we split it into 2/3 SFA, 1/3, and it was split into there. And I just thought that was such a fantastic way of working. You know, Andy was doing it all the time, you know, get the guys out. And we were getting out to that. Mr. Farry, he did the same thing. You know, we're going there to help the players become better coaches. And I look at that and I think quite a lot. I'm thinking, where did that go, that money go, and why did it go there and who got it? And I used to think, I need to do that when I become that top the coach, head coach. I need to do that too and ensure that carried on. After a wee while, the board at the SFA changed slightly, and that gave us a wee bit of problem. And the guy at the PFA, Fraser Wishart, he was there as well. And so I was desperate to make sure these guys did get a good 6 days or something like that, 7 days. I was desperate for these guys to get it because I did look at where are they going, where are they working, etc. And it was all with the players. So it was a bit of work getting it done. Andy Roxburgh was absolutely first class. It's a bit thing we need to get it done. And at this minute in time, I've been away 3 years, and I just feel as if the guys at the board, and I've got a chairman in there and a vice chairman in there, and it's not happening the same way. It's not happening the same way. There's so many people in there. I was at a course yesterday, or 2 days I was there last week, and I look at the enthusiasm these kids have got, the guys have got, are doing the course. I just visit and I think that is fantastic. So I was desperate to go and see somebody else to talk about them, because they're all running about. I says, who gave them kit? Oh no, they brought their own kit. I'm thinking, they bring their own kit. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. So it came because of Mr. Farry wanted it done for a wee bit, because he then passed away sadly, and Andy was the same, but then Craig was the same as well, and that's how it came about. So it was good for that, but I think the quality of the coaches are then, it's a difficult one, that, because I can coach differently for you. I'm a crabbit big soul, and Parky's a wee cheery wee soul, and it works for us. We work and it works. We work hard for it to make sure Mary McGlump, she's there and she's wanting something, and they're there, and that's something that people have got to work hard at with the SFA. The coaches are now got to be really, really hard. Sadly for me, I don't think any of them are former football players, and I just always thought that one will be a football player and one will be somebody who takes it's the guy, it's the one that we are looking at, but this guy here, number 2, is getting together, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to split it into somebody like yourself who knows about the things about it, and then just carry on from there.
I think, Jim, I was just going to carry on for Colin's question, Jim, is I was down there, in Largs in the mid-90s, 95, 96. I did my B and I did my A intro. You were one of my assessors. And I think the big thing that always stood out to me, Jim, was the culture that you created, the spirit and that was around the place. And I couldn't wait to come back down, and I looked at the group that, my B license group was, all the Wraith Rovers guys, Gordon DL, Ronnie Coyle, Jock McStay, Duncan Shearer was in there. And it was a group that, that you were challenged and you learned from every day. But the culture now, I did that in the mid-90s. Then I moved over to the US and I went to do my US license. I did my USB in the year 2000. And I remember the instructor asking me the question. He said, how do you, what are the differences from doing your SFA license to you? And I said, look, I'm just going to be honest. I felt as if, and this is 20 years ago, I felt as if I was doing my US license with a bit of a straitjacket on. This is your topic, this is your theme, don't deviate, that was how I felt. Whereas, SFA, you were allowed to put your own slant on it. You were given your theme, you were given your topic. But I always just loved the culture, that was there. And there was one famous story. This is 96. I was doing my A intro and I was in Duncan Shearer's group, and we had one American guy, and poor guy, he turned up in the first morning with a baseball cap with coach on the front. Poor guy, and he walked down the hill at Largs and everybody saw him coming. He was a typical, I'm being careful here, but typical American guy that, a 3 foot needs brace on and baseball cap with coach on it. And he came into our group, and the very first day there was a lunchtime break, and you were running the group. There was a lunchtime break and he had taken his baseball cap off and he had left it at the goalpost. Well, sure enough, it went missing and it get stolen by Mr. Shearer. And at lunchtime, he takes it down to Largs, the T-shirt shop at the front of Largs, takes it in, and he asked them to print driver underneath it. So we come up that night and we're having dinner, and Craig Brown makes a few announcements. Andy lost a hat. Sure enough, he comes down, puts the cap on, coach driver. So that was the poor American lad. But the thing, the moral of the story that I love, Jim, was just the culture that you created down there. And you were at the forefront of that. And as Colin said, the people that, the Jim Sinklers of the world and the Tommy Craigs and, just the culture that I felt was special. And you couldn't wait to get back down there and continue your journey. And I think that was that intended, or was that just something that you felt, with a group of people, they dictated how that was created?
No, we're totally Scottish up here. That's the thing about us, is it? And we're good when we're good, and we're rotten when we're rotten.
Yeah.
And that comes up on some occasions, but very, very slight. That's just a Friday night at the bar at some occasions. But it was great. Jimmy Sinclair, for example, he wanted that sorted out. He didn't want that there. He didn't want that in among the. And yet it was so good for, just you're talking about the culture that's there. It's so good for it. We had the coaches one night. I think it must have been a Saturday night. But the coaches there, Andy, Craig, the whole gang, Walter, Alec, they go on and on and on. And we're down the town having a nice wee sip of something. And I heard Archie saying, right, Jim, I'll go and get a taxi. Okay, and Alex Smith, I'll come out with you and get a taxi. So they go outside to get the taxi, and the disco's there, not that far away. And he says, I'll go and phone. Wasn't there any phones in the days? Wasn't there any phones? I said, I'll go and phone. I says, right, you go and phone. So he phones up the taxi, and here along came Brian Whittaker and Willie Miller come along. And here Archie is into the telephone box. Well, if you can remember the telephone boxes in Glar's, the weight of them is incredible. So there's this wrought iron seat there, the sun seat. So they wheel it until the sun seat is against the telephone box. And of course, the boys' taxi comes up, the two of them go in the taxi, and they go up to the centre and get things done. And it was just so funny. Now that you look at that, you're laughing at yourself, and I was laughing myself at that for a good number of years. It was just fantastic. And that's the kind of culture you come up with. That's the kind of culture, and it's hard sometimes for us, you know, the guys who work at the SFA, and you've got to look out your bit and so on and so on. So you've got to look for that, and it was just fantastic. Archie and I can't remember who the other guy was.
And I remember the first morning, Jim, we were all in the auditorium there at Inverclyde, and you were there, Craig Brown, and you hand out the schedule for the week. This was the A intro. And it was morning, afternoon, evening, and everybody's like, holy shit, that's a busy load. And after the second session in the afternoon, Craig comes into the dining room and says, guys, just giving you all a heads up, tonight's cancelled, we're all going to meet in Toby's bar. And that was 125 people made their way down the hill to Toby's, and it became the four glasses, and all of a sudden it became a great coaching session. But that was, it was just the culture and the spirit and the energy that I loved, and I just couldn't wait to get back down there each time. But that was driven by the leadership. It was certainly driven by the leadership.
Yeah. It had to be. As I say, they're not all the same. I would certainly say at least 8% of them were the way we would like it to be in there. But the culture is so important. Yeah. It's so important.
Yeah.
So,
Kingy, you've got the last piece here. Did you have anything you wanted to add on the last little segment here, the coach head piece, the Mourinho's, Sir Alex?
Yeah.
That kind of little
just a few. I think when you look through, Jim, if you're ever looking back, and you're probably at that stage where, I'm not saying that you can't look forward in your life, Jim, but when you're looking back and some of it, you look at the legacy of yourself and Parky and all the others that you were involved with there that have left. I mean, it's a pretty good recommendation for a course when you've got someone like Mourinho, actually making sure that he does his badges. And then with my own A license, Castagna and Manish were on it because Mourinho had told them to go to Scotland to do their badges, which I remember hearing that and thinking, wow, what a recommendation that is when you've got a team that won the Champions League and the best up and coming manager at that time, and Mourinho then telling his players to go to the SFA and do their badges there. I mean, when you look back on that, you must be proud on the kind of reputation that you've given coach education in Scotland.
It was fantastic. Andy would get them. Andy goes and gets them. He gets Jose. It's because he spoke to the ex-manager of Newcastle United, Bobby St.
Robson.
And Andy got him, and Bobby Robson says, I would go and get this boy here because he's here at Benfica and it's no working as well for him as it is for me. So there you go. There was Bobby Robson was, trusting Andy to make sure that Mourinho got his opportunity. So Mourinho he passed the course as well and passed it very well. you know, and he did very well. And of course, I was sitting next to, it was up at Hampden. I'm sitting next to him, and I wanted to see him just to say hello, how you doing, blah blah blah. And I did that, but no, he wasn't for a chat either. He was one of the kind of boring old farts that you get everywhere else. And so that was him. And then of course there's so many after that. You know, there is, particularly in the Portuguese end, there was a whole lot of that with the Portuguese end.
B.S. Boris.
Yeah. They were all there and they were all out, and it was great. You know, there's a Tottenham manager just now just got the sack with one of our courses. And that was us again. So it's always rebuild, and the Portuguese are quite decent at doing that. They're quite decent at doing that. But sometimes Caxina's one, you know, the Rangers as well. You know, if they get the course and, you know, they feel quite, you know, thankful for it, and it's a big handshake and thanks very much. We enjoyed that. So it was great for people like that to come to the course, because then you start talking to the Portuguese guy who talks to the Hungarian guy. I've talked to the guy who's a rocket scientist, who was a rocket scientist. He's floating about, and of course, lovely gentleman. He goes up, when he said that about the cap there, and I was with him, he says he was walking about the course, and he wasn't that good, to be quite honest, at this time. So of course he's gone there, and of course the boys are saying, he's a rocket scientist. So one of the boys goes over and says, "Where do you come from?" "I come from Florida." He says, "Well, whereabouts?" Where the rockets and that. She says,
Canaveral.
Aye. He says, "I'm a rock guy." He says, "I am." Of course, the whole place used to rock it. This is probably the brainiest guy ever to get a course like that ever. It was so good, but big chuckles, and it was great for him.
Fergie, sorry, Kingy, I'm just going to Fergie had a question there, Kingy. Fergie, did you have something to ask there, mate?
Yeah, Jim, good to see you, man. It's been a long time.
Fergie, how you doing?
I'm doing great. My dad was going to try and get on this morning, but he wishes his best to you, and hope you're doing well. So
you doing okay?
He's doing great. My brother.
Pass my love of him.
He definitely appreciates the early stuff, and he was a development officer on the borders for a while. The stuff that you did with him was immense, he said, and the education just came off you like very, very simple stuff, and it was deep, and he enjoyed it. So he thanks you for that a lot too. So my question would be, since all the coach education stuff came through Largs and so many people came through there, what was one guy maybe stuck out early on that you thought he's going to go some places and he's actually became a name in the world today?
Sorry, give me that again.
So somebody that came through your coach education or licenses in Largs very early on, and he was maybe a player, but he was also an up-and-coming coach, and he's out there as a name now, but you saw early on that he would definitely be a good coach or a manager.
No, that's what they're there for. That's the job. Is, you know, you've actually got to help him, and he's got to help you. I think I know the person you're talking about. His name Ross.
I'm just saying, did you have anybody in mind? You thought came through?
Yeah, well, Ross is a bit like that. I'll just keep his name to myself, and he's a bit like that. He wanted to try everything differently for everybody else in the course, which to me can sometimes help him greatly to walk through this, or it was the opposite. Just he started saying, "I can do that, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that, and I'll do that." And I was trying my hardest to like what he was saying, and it just didn't come to me. It didn't come to me that I'm looking at this guy and saying, I'm telling him that's not right, that's not right. I just told him, see, at this minute in time, just go through the courses, pass the courses, and we'll look at it then. Because I'm quite a soft guy with the courses. There's people who I fail, there is no doubt about that. but there's a lot more people that I don't fail, is the biggest shout for me. And that guy, I can still see him. I can still see him, a big tall guy. He was at a club recently, and they get put out at the club before that, and I'm thinking, no, a fourth time. So the people are different. That's the thing about it, Fergie. You can, go both ways. Yeah, you can go both ways. So please excuse me if my thing was a load of rubbish.
That's all good. Thank you. Good to see you, Jim. All the best, man. Cheers.
Yeah, you take care.
Kingy, did you have anything else, mate?
I think it was just wrapping up there. I think was my last question was actually the one that Fergie was asking, which was just if there was one that Jim saw from day one, like a coach that you saw from day one, Jim, and you maybe just thought, oof, you saw his first session, he just walked off the park as a player, and you saw his first session and thought he's going to be a top manager. Is there one that you looked at, or maybe even one coach or one facilitator that you worked with that you admired the most?
Aye, these things happen.
Mm-hmm.
They happen. The people, they happen. People will go there and never go to it, and you'll think to yourself, oh my heavens, I never let him go. At this minute in time, a guy from China, Lucai's his name, and he went to St Andrews with us, and he was working away at St Andrews. Nice boy, and they were working away, and they were playing the games, and after the second day, he hurt his leg, and I said to him, what are you doing? He said, I've hurt my leg, I've pulled a muscle. I says, oh, what are you doing? Where's your house? Where's your digs? Of course, digs is something that Chinese people know very well. He says, it's over there. I said, right, in my car. So I grab him in the car and I take him to his digs. And next morning, I go and get him in my car and I bring him back for his digs. And he comes in with his bike. He got hired a bike at St Andrews. They had a bike to run about. So he's running this thing then, of course. He's Lucai's his name, and we're doing a bit of practices. And it was wee Brian Ewan who was doing the practices for the pre-season. And he's doing these, and he's running, and he's running, and he's running, and he's running, and he's running. And what happened is he couldn't kick a ball. He couldn't kick a ball, and he still can't kick a ball. He kicks this ball, and he goes off, and the boys start clapping because Lukai was lost. He didn't have people, he went and did the stuff he was told. He wasn't that sure about it. He couldn't kick a ball. He went into the goals for us instead of in the goals. He gets himself injured. We done this with Brian. He ran as fast as he could to get this thing with. And these people come in, and I love him because I love him because he wants to go on. He just wants to go on. At this moment in time, he is still desperate to get put on an A license course. I put him in a B license course because he passed, and I put him in a B license course. And it wasn't the greatest B license I've ever seen in my life. It was, down to poor or something like that. But I was watching him, and I've seen how far has he moved. He's getting better and better and better and better and better. And I thought, I can't no pass that boy. I can't no pass him. You're saying, but he's coming from China. I said, I know he's coming from China. I said, that makes him what? And one of the days we're driving home, I said, what's your mum and your dad up to? What do they do? I need to watch my team. What they up to? Oh, they're up to this. And just saying, this is that she says, no, I was just trying to get things done. I says to my mum, if you want to become a coach, you go and become a coach, and I'll get the help for that. He says, I'll give you the money for it. And I thought, fantastic. The guys just took the mickey out of him at first to start with, but then they start to go a wee bit different, and that's what it's all about, I think. I think that's what so I'm happy with Lukai at this minute in time. Nobody's given him a course, so he's needing an A license course. But it's a dodgy one though. Yeah, it's really a dodgy one. It really is. Mm-hmm. So we managed it. Yeah.
Eric, I'll hand you back to you for the wrap up.
Yeah, the raffle. Do you know, the good old days we used to, this is when we handed out the iron brew and the turnips came away first, Jim. That was that was the highlight of the convention back in the day. But I just want to say thanks again for joining us today, Jim. It was brilliant to reminisce and hear your journey, and massive thanks from all of us for your involvement in getting this movement. You know, the group that we've got during COVID, I think has been a saving grace for many of us. And you know, again, I just can't say thanks, you know, enough on behalf of the group, Jim. So big thanks to you. We'll let you go chase your 9 grandkids again, Jim.
I'll not manage that too easy. Good luck to the both of you.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Jim. All the best. Take care.
All the best.
Bye. Bye. Bye.